will really help us make changes and pivots along the way. So we're gonna go kind of section to section. We always say like problems are okay and absolutely good. Ideas are even better, or possible solutions, because we're artists in a creative space, so we love a good idea on how we can move forward. You were about to say something? Oh, really? That was a talk back. And so, but please be honest. Yes, of course, we can share good things so that we know to keep doing them, especially with new programs. If we know something's working, that's good to know so that we can continue to move forward in that direction. But this really is a safe space to share real feedback. We're big girls. We're not afraid of feedback because at the end of the day, that's what we want, is for you to have the best experience possible. So honest feedback is how we get to that. So should we just jump right in? First of all, actually, John, thank you so much. I can't see where you are, but John and Thymele Arts, thank you for hosting us and giving us this beautiful couch to sit on. I feel so fancy.
And then I just want to say, for any of you that are joining on the live stream, I'm on the live stream chat, so anything that you want brought into the room, I will bring into the room through the live stream chat. So please use that chat. We're here to answer questions. And have you all feel like you're here in community with us in the room.
Yeah. So did anyone get an email today about numbers?
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Emails are working. So we did officially announce numbers. We will send probably by like September 1st. We'll send a full annual report with like full financial transparency, and like we'll dive into what ticket sales were in a deeper way, not just the number of tickets sold and the amount of money made on tickets. So the annual report will be 7-8 pages of just full information about this festival. But we did announce kind of our general numbers, which in case you missed it, we sold over 49,409 individual tickets at the festival, and that's not including extensions. So that's just June 1st to the 25th. We have a total of $492,663, almost $500,000 in ticket sales, which is really exciting. We have a long ways to go. The idea is we want to get to the point where every show is sold out. So we're taking that as a win, but with there's room for growth as well as an org. So we see that as well. But we're definitely getting back to like 2018 numbers, which is a huge feat after a pandemic, where getting audiences back was not easy, as we all know. During the festival, we had a total of 301 productions participating, with a total at a total of 28 venues, and 1,357 performances. 58 were digital, and 1,299 were performed for in-person audiences this year. As far as artist participation, we had a total of 1,180 artists and producers involved in the festival, which is so exciting. That is so many artists that we got to share in community with. And then since 2010, which is our first festival, we've returned over $4.35 million back into artists' pockets, since 100% of Hollywood Fringe Festival ticket proceeds go right back into artists' pocket. So it was a really exciting year in as far as the numbers go. So thank you all for contributing to that and being a part of this year. Settlements have gone out. I'm sure everyone knows that. But if for some reason, USPS is not perfect. So if anyone here in person or is listening in, be like, I sent you in for that check when we sent that email and I haven't seen it yet, please let us know. Support at HollywoodFringe.org, because we want to make sure to sort that out. You will get your money, I promise. But most people have already received them, I believe, so we're set there. So let's just start talking. We'll go subject to subject. If you have a question or feedback to offer, or just want to talk about something further, we'll just kind of go with the same way we did it before during town halls. Early on, raise your hand, introduce yourself. I say still tell us the name of your show. That's kind of how we identify ourselves in the Fringe community, right? My name and my show, and then just go ahead and tell us what you had in mind. So we'll start with right in the beginning. You want to start with registration?
Yeah, we're gonna start from months ago. So pull yourself out of June, July self and pull yourself back into like January, February, March. And so first we want to point to like our costs at Fringe. We want to first talk about our registration costs. We can't go down on it, but we also want to make sure like how is it feeling to people, so that we can like know what, if you feel like it was too much, it was too little, what do you think? $300 for paid multi-performance registration, $175 if you had a free performance or a single performance. And if you don't have feedback, that's okay too.
I think we can go like through the list.
And if it's hard, and if you're like, you know what, that's too much, please also let us know, because we just
Yeah. What about website experience? The tech side of registering, your project page, when did the registration, all of the questionnaires, the beginning, anything there?
And then, how was booking a venue? Was the site and venue workshop helpful for you? Were you having trouble finding a space? Was it cost prohibitive?
It was all very easy. Everything that you're mentioning so far right now, I feel like you ladies did an amazing job. I think the registration was very easy to do. You listed all the venues. The venues were very open to seeing us. I visited quite a few venues myself, and they were all very, very open to seeing us, and everything was listed there. I mean, I think that's why nobody's talking. It was it was a breeze, girl. It was a breeze.
And we know it's going to be expensive too, because it is Los Angeles. Like, we have to just also like acknowledge that this is a prohibitively expensive city, and that our venues are not run by like multi-conglomerate huge spaces. Like, they are also struggling in the art sphere too.
Yeah, with regard to both registration and venue costs, I was able to find a venue that was very reasonable for, even as you were saying, within the scope of Los Angeles, reasonable for what it was. My registration cost was almost that of my venue cost.
Yeah.
So as you just said, you can't really lower it, but it did, strike me as, insert adjective here or whatever, that it's the same for a solo producer versus someone with a casting group of 12. So if there was an opportunity for, I don't know if a sliding scale is really appropriate, but something acknowledging that somebody who's literally producing it on their own.
Yeah, totally.
And so we're just going to repeat the questions for the live stream. Yeah. And then actually, do you want to, for the future, we'll bring mics out. Thank you. Sorry, I had them bring the lights up. That way this could feel more like a conversation so that it doesn't feel like we're on the spotlight. Yeah.
And I'm going to play Mike Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that way, and then...
You said it so perfectly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, yeah.
See, now this feels like a conversation. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
It looks beautiful, y'all, but yeah, this is good.
So I'll give like the sentence recap version.
Yeah.
Basically that everyone's doing the best they can. Registration is what it is, but I basically said that my venue cost, I was able to scale according to the size of my production, which was a single person. I'm a solo producer, and that I wasn't able to do the same with registration, which ended up almost being what my venue cost was. So in the future, some sort of acknowledgement or some sort of sliding scale or something to accommodate, solo producers and cast and crews of 12. The first time. That's okay.
That was great. You did great.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Carly's taking notes. So we're going to write all this down. Just in, to be completely frank, because this is, we're honest with y'all. And that's going to be one that would be that's a big picture, just how to fund it and how to think about it. But I think that's especially with our artist fund, this is the direction we want to go, and how can we provide funding in exactly that way? Because some people, I know I couldn't afford to produce at the Fringe. I'm just going to be perfectly frank with you, based on the salary I make at Fringe, I couldn't do a show at Fringe. So that's something we're very aware of in looking at how we can make it radically accessible financially for anyone to participate and it not be completely financially reliant.
And if you know of any corporate sponsors that want to give money directly to our artists, we actually have 3 programs where they can give registrations for free and do stipends like this, where we just pass that on, which is a part of how we've done a couple of scholarships this year. So we have programming to do that too. So if you're a person that's you know what, I know a funding source, that would be a great intervention, because the more that we can fund artists, we and the board have been talking a lot about how that's going to be the success of Fringe, is being able to commission more work and be able to provide more of that artist ecosystem. We're just not there yet.
Which is it is exciting though. After 13 years, we finally have kind of the infrastructure to be able to do that reliably. Because when we were just starting out, I mean, we're still very grassroots, but comparatively, 10 years ago, we did not have the infrastructure for programming, whereas now we have the Artist Fund and Scholarship Program and Exchange Program, so we're ready for funders because we kind of have that built-in system where we can prove it works. But I love that because that is 100% our mission and goal moving forward.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think it was actually good for me to pay the $300 because that's a large number for me, and it made me realize that I'm really jumping in this pool, and I'm really jumping in, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. So in an odd sort of way, it was a good initiation process for me to, get my big girl pants on.
I agree.
I feel like it should be like a college class where, like, okay, you have to participate at least one portion right throughout the. No, I'm just kidding. No one's forced.
I see one in the chat online. As a producer, you do shell out a lot of money throughout the festival. Do you have to wait? You have to wait a long time to get the check after the festival. Is it possible to split checks into 2 phases? We have been chatting about that so much, actually, about some easier ways. I have nothing to say, but I have to say that it is like one of the number one things that we are looking at for next year. We were
and just say, all right, you know what? Let's all run over to this show. Let's all run over to that show. And so, I mean, just a way to offer our empty seats to other people who are participating in the festival. If that's not something that's happening, is it? Okay,
no,
good.
I love that though, and we certainly have like Facebook groups or things like that. But I would, and just to pick your brain a little more, so we can know like where to start discussing further. Are you thinking specifically for participants, or a general like anybody who sees this message, I want your butt in my seat?
Well, hopefully they would come through the Fringe website, so they would be. Fringers could mean participants, people who've paid a lot of money to see shows.
Okay.
If you're just sitting around and you want to come see a show, and we have an empty seat, we're not going to say no, not you. So for general, and just like just some place that says these are free shows tonight, and and that's going to bring people in, so why McDonald's gives away fries sometimes.
Yeah.
But just like, hey, just some place there, on the Fringe website that it was official, and so that they can also tap in and be part of our show and part of our inbox and our emails and everything, so that it was official. But it was going through the website. There's some place that's like, okay, click on it. And you already have things that say free shows, but like free shows happening today. And then after, within, last minute shows, like our own little version of TKTS within, the Fringe website. So.
And potentially like an opt-in sort of thing, so we're like, I can see this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Only if you opted in, because some people wouldn't want to opt in. Maybe some people would say, no, I don't want those texts. But a text could go out saying, hey, I've got 20 tickets. I've got 20 seats, and I've got a reviewer coming. Please help.
Be like a opt-in Google group.
It would.
just on that really quick, would you, if you didn't opt in but it was only for previews or something like that, what would that look like? You would want it to be opt-in only?
I think some people would want to. Yeah. Some people would want to choose if they want to get those texts. Or they could turn it on. Today I don't have any.
Right. If it's.
Today I'm not doing anything.
Or
and,
even not even a text. I'm just saying, like, if we were talking more of like a pass situation, or like something that's more like all participating artists at Fringe would have like a special pass that during previews made like they got on a standby list of some sort.
I wonder, like, throughout the festival, if there's like a live portion of the website that's almost like a live blog, so that you don't have to opt in, because there wouldn't be alerts. But when you go on Hollywood Fringe website, maybe there's like almost as if it's like a Twitter feed live, and like as a participant, you type into that live feed blog and you go, I have a show tonight, I still have 10 tickets left, come through. And that way the public can hop on and not have to log in, and they see that live update thing as if It's like a Twitter feed or something like that.
Right, so we're kind of looking at two opt-ins, or that's how I'm visualizing it. It's kind of an opt-in to I even want to participate. Because some shows, let's be honest, they would rather hold out for ticket buyers at the door, and that's totally fine and respectable. But where I see where the alternative is, right, I want a full house. Like I just want to do this, and I would rather have butts in the seats than a bunch of empty chairs. And so to have the option to opt in to advertising with this platform, whatever it may look like, as well as opting into getting these messages, because some people they hear from us and they're like, no more Fringe email, so they would hate to have more. So I think there could be a double door opt-in situation.
Yeah, because like we talk about passes all the time, and passes are so messy because of we need everybody to be able to make different amounts of money, because everybody's show is valued differently because it is different different production. But to opt into something like this, that would be an interesting idea.
You know, Matt Quinn has a thing with his group. I paid to be in his group even though I wasn't in one of his theaters, and he gives those lanterns, and at right before the show, if 2 minutes to the door, if these seats aren't taken, if you're there at the Stephanie Fury, you just get in.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with the maybe doing that, but I would be wary of doing that throughout the festival necessarily, because I don't know. I feel like at previews is when everybody is really looking for that last minute fill in.
It may be a conflict why I brought it up. I just want
Yeah.
Oh, no, I mean, it would just be two separate events.
I was thinking more about the bus and the seat, and the best way to do it is for my experience as a comm swab with the other artists, and it worked beautifully because they come to my preview and I go to their preview, and then we write each other's review, and it was really amazing. However, it's very labor intensive because you have to meet that person, and then you need to exchange your phone number, and then you have to figure out if that person bought my ticket or got my ticket, and then I have to get their ticket. So if there's a way that Fringe website could provide a button that's comm swab for the participant.
Well, wouldn't you be able to just set your participant price at zero? If you're buying through the site, correct?
Yes, but this could potentially be I'm giving you one if you give me one.
Got it. So it's that accountability back.
Yeah, because there are some Fringers participants.
Yeah.
I got their ticket as a comp, and then I went to their show, but they never responded. So if it's more of a mutual thing,
Right.
if I just send a signal to those shows I want the comp swap with, and if they agree, then it becomes a match, and then it creates a comm swap, a true comm swap, because for us, we have to focus on our art in our shows. So give us more time to be creative and not really think about those admin or who got my ticket, because that's very labor intensive in my opinion.
Question, because I love this, the coding. I'm trying to think about how that would work tech-wise on the website, like a switch essentially. But as it stands now, if you were to make a discount code or a comp code, right, say, and use the Fringer's name, and then I don't know if you'll notice whenever you create a discount code, you can go in and look at how many tickets were sold and then see how that discount code worked. So potentially would that, or is that just as labor intensive as?
I'm talking about more of the mutual match that the site can provide. Yeah,
No,
is it both
right,
way?
right. I'm just saying it would have to be someone would have to give in first, I guess, right? The way I'm talking about, you'd have to take a chance, and the other person coming through. That's fair.
Yeah, because for us to check all those shows, make sure
Yeah.
that they got our ticket, it was very taxing.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I think this might be like one of those medium picture kind of things, but it does make sense, and I see where you're coming from.
I mean, I think one of the hardest aspects of doing your own show, chime in with this young lady back here, when you're solo, is like, I put out an email the day before and say, listen, if you're going to, I give them my cell, if you're going to text me today, because, tomorrow I'm not going to be able to do that, and I haven't taught Stella how to handle my texts yet. So, but, I try to do it lightly, but sure enough, an hour before the show, people are texting you. And, you're trying to get across town because there's a parade in your neighborhood. That was the hardest part for me.
But for anyone watching from home, Stella is Rebecca's dog.
So if there's a way that you can automate things that the artist doesn't really have to worry about those, like following through, because I know they're extremely busy. They're like handling 10 different things all at the same time. So just reading off the email, check your text to make sure that person got the comp ticket is not something that could be productive for them.
Thinking about this idea to comp swap and have it actually happen, I wonder if there's a way, like when we would get reached out to by industry and press, we would get an email that says, so-and-so is requesting a comp, and we'd have to grant that. So if that's something that we can do as fringers together, where it says, I'm requesting a comp to your show, honor that comp by purchasing a comp. So you lock in that, like, okay, you're requesting a comp, I will give you that comp by buying a comp to your show as well, and it's an actual button you have to click, rather than. Or even just knowing that, like, you have to approve it. Right, you would approve that comp. And then hopefully you go ahead, and it's kind of the honor system maybe at that point.
Yeah, I think that's smart. There's definitely a step there. So it's taking, like, we basically have half that technology built. Or even, I guess, with the same technology we currently have, it's okay, I've requested, they've requested. Now that we've both requested, we can honor.
Right,
yeah,
because then you have that
trust,
notification.
But that's the community, right? We got to be able to trust each other a little bit.
Right, and then you have that notification that says this person's requesting a comp. It might just push people a little more to go, oh, I should go see their show, rather than it just being a conversation at an office hours that you may forget later. You get that notification email that says this person's requesting a comp, and then you can do it back. And then it's a start to that mutual thing. Oh, please.
Next time we're bringing hats, little crowns for, like, the brilliant. Actually, you already have all given such brilliant ideas.
I'll also be honest and say that technology was really hard for us to make, and so we can't promise that would happen, but that is something that, like, really could be like a next 2 years kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
Because everything that we do to the website makes it heavier, and everything that we add to it and everything that we kind of make specifically for our festival is hours that we have to put towards production, because our ticketing system obviously is not just for Hollywood Fringe, even though it was built for us, because thank you, Ben Hill.
Just FYI, since you asked about ticketing, one of the things that I had to get help, and I know a lot of other people, say somebody buys tickets for that night and then they can't come that night and they want to exchange it for another night. That should just be in that lovely seminar that you gave about ticketing, or maybe you did it and I was just a dumb blonde that night and didn't get it. But that is something that happens, right? Didn't that happen to everybody? Yeah. Okay.
And I agree. This was something we found out about. I think most people know at this point. Ellen and I took over 3 years ago. This is the first, like, full functional year. So we've also learned a lot right along with you, seeing how the festival fully functions in our positions, where we have this bird's eye view over the whole thing in a way that neither one of us ever have before. And literally halfway through the festival, that was a note we had of, like, we need to make it more obvious how tickets are handled, so for anyone who here, we do all of that for you, because the idea is exactly like you said, you have so much on your plate already. We want you to be artists and focus on being artists. So our job is to make sure we are more transparent with the audience, so they know to come to us when they have something to swap. come to us, and that's something we're already going to enact for next year, is to make sure like it's very clear that Hollywood Fringe is responsible for all of the ticketing mess. We don't want you to have to handle that. You can email us if somebody's emailing you about it, but at the end of the day, your audiences email us, we swap tickets or refund if, as long as it's, days prior, that kind of thing.
I think Barry had a question. Oh,
Hold for Mike.
The gentleman was speaking. He said he mentioned town hall. Perhaps we can actually dedicate one of our town halls to specifically a comp swap. It's like a meet and greet for everybody. Everybody come here. Meet everybody else's show.
like a speed networking?
I gave you props right there. Yeah, but
Thinking cute, Barry.
again, Barry Briscoe, Love is a Battlefield.
No. Yes. Okay. This is one of those things. That's why I fucking love these events, y'all. So we can go from this is a big picture, and we love the idea of a technology swap, right? Because that is an ideal. But okay, that might be a 2-year process to get to there. This is something we can do next year, and easing into that. So at least we want to serve you the best we can within our capacity. So count on that. I'm saying it here on live stream with Hollywood Fringe. Next year we're having a comp party, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so it'll be every show gets 30 seconds or something for their elevator pitch of shows just cranking out, talking, and then after all the shows have presented, then it just turns into an office hours of going up to whoever you want to comp swap.
Yeah.
With. Yeah.
And I love even to add on to that, what a great way to teach everyone how to do comps in one foul swoop. If we're not bring your phones, bring your computers, and then we sit down and give each other comps right in the moment. And then by then everyone knows how to do it too, so everyone wins. I'm spending less time on support, teaching everyone to do comps,
Oh,
and last thing, and the price of the comp is your review.
Ooh.
You have to leave a review.
The checks and balances on that might take longer.
Yeah, hi there, Ernest Kearney, loudmouth know-it-all. I have a couple of little nitpicky things. First of all, what the hell was with the parking across from the Hudson Theater? They had
That's those parking guys. They have a lot of nerve.
they
The Hudson multiple times about it, but they don't enforce their guys. They're illegally blocking public.
But they're getting that from the city, I think.
are they was that the parking lot there who had all those signs?
Yeah, it's the black.
Yeah, they illegally do that, so you'll use their parking lot.
Yeah, they charge.
Well, good. Next year I know to rip off those signs.
I do. I just throw them in the street.
You know, there were signs all across Santa Monica saying no parking from yada yada.
Rude! Who do I got to talk to about that? Not that I have any power over parking, but I'm pissed too.
Hudson might be in partnership with that.
Oh, sorry, Hudson. Just kidding.
So they gotta talk to stop doing it.
Well, I will join you in the vendetta next year, just ripping them apart.
Signs down because they gotta keep stealing them for something you can't
Yeah.
get them. And they put white tape over the
We are live right now, Haverty.
For those signs to be legal, they need to have a date. And if they don't have a date on them, then they're legally placed.
Oh, isn't that fun to know?
This meeting took a legal turn.
See, that was one nitpicky
Copy.
point.
We do not advise any illegal activity, parking enforcement or not. But interesting to know, and a good thing for us to look into because I've never heard of that happening.
And
Yeah. Wow.
well, that's like LA's parking lots are the fascist groups. See, one nitpicky thing there. The other nitpicky thing is I know there's the mentor program. I know that there's the theater owners, but a number of the shows I saw, mainly through the educational institutions, flunked out really badly from Theater 101 failures. I was in the Stephanie Fury, last row, could not hear the actors on stage. My hearing's bad, so I turned to Matt Quinn and I go, could you? And he goes, I couldn't hear them either. If there was just, I know, all these shows should have outside producers and directors, but if there was some system where there were spot producers, let's say, who would just go from show to show, watch one of the rehearsals, and give them a very simple thing like share your voices.
I think one of the beautiful things about Fringe is that we really don't curate artistically. And I just don't feel comfortable ever stepping into that role.
Absolutely, I can understand that. But another aspect of the Fringe is to have shows that succeed. The show that I just mentioned at the Stephanie Fury, the actresses were very good. The script was pretty interesting when I could hear them. And that show did not do well because loudmouth know-it-all, I told them, they did make their changes, but by that time it was halfway through the Fringe. A heads up would have helped.
Well, and I think, and kind of to what Ellen was saying, at the end of the day, we have so much, we provide so much support, but most of it is platform based. We are not your directors or your producers, and I wouldn't want to be. You're doing beautiful work, and I think it would be really inappropriate for Fringe to step in that fashion. But I think, again, the beautiful thing about Fringe is that you have a community of people, because this is the safe space to find that out, not when you spend, $10,000 on a run all by yourself at another theater, or while you're auditioning for a bigger space, to try to get your work picked up there. This is the safe space to find out from your fellow producers, or from, wait one second, or from the reviews, right? Because that is, well, yes, it sucks to get a review that gives you a note, but what a great time during the preview of your Fringe show to get that note. Hey, I couldn't hear you. Great work. And so I think there are those pieces for that reason in play.
I can see where you're coming from, but every theater complex has an artistic director who is not necessarily involved in the productions, but will just go and judge and advise. And one last thing, my big point. At one point, midway through the Fringe, I went to the Starbucks, and a nice young gentleman behind the counter gets me my latte, and I go, "So, what do you think about the Fringe?" I'm sorry. One block away. You've heard this from me before. There needs to be a stronger impact on the ground with the Fringe. Now, I volunteer next year. If at the very beginning you set up notices, I will organize those parades.
To lighten the mood, we're not going to probably start at a Starbucks with our community outreach.
No,
but I will say we've tried. It's not their thing.
No,
what I think is really true is that we are working on our community outreach. It's not perfect right now, and we're not going to pretend that it is. But I think what is really lucky is that we have had a great community impact. We've saw a lot of numbers. We have all the analysis of what zip codes come, and our local community is very, very present at Fringe. But I do think it is hard to, so I think it's hard to quantify. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not only the Fringe, it's every theater in Los Angeles right now is failing on the level of audience building, with possibly the exception of the 24th Street Theater and the Actors Gang, and maybe Zombie Joe's. But the parade aspect would take, my concept is you find out individuals of the shows who want to participate. They can either participate by passing out their flyers, or even better, if they have some type of costume element, you arrange the preview weeks where you hit the swap meet at Franklin High School. Just go right through. Just pass out the flyers, hit them there, pass them out. And the gentleman who said the pass, great idea. There used to be Filmex when dinosaurs ruled the world in L.A., and they would sell a pass. You could get 10 films on your card for a certain amount of money. But that would also be a good way to encourage audiences. Once again, I did my little on-the-street survey, asking people, what are you here to see, DDD? This year was an improvement. about 50% of the people who I talked to said they were going to see another show. You know, and that was always a prospect of once we get them here, is keeping them here. If there could be a way where the comps that you're talking about could go to people who have already seen a show coming out. This show is looking for audiences. Boom.
Oh, I just want to move. Just because I want to like make sure that we have like more than.
And we'll get to marketing.
We're gonna get to so many things, and so I really want to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. And so
No, I'm going to hold on to the mic for the rest of the evening.
No,
I was
but it's
born
hard-
in a small town.
It's hard to take all of that at once, and so I think that's why we work in chunks. It's because when we can work in chunks, then we as a team can all sit here and put our heads together. But when we're talking about them not in chunks, I'm going to be honest and say I can't process it. I'm too tired. I'm way too tired.
And we got 4 more sections, and then we got marketing
But
and outreach, which
I do want to say, like, I do validate like a lot of what you're saying about outreach. It is tough, and it's not going to be solved anytime soon. But I'm hoping that it can be something that we all start to work towards. And as we kind of make some moves, getting more feedback will be helpful. But
Well, tell me next year about the parades.
Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna. Do we have any last bits on ticketing?
So the pay what you can tickets, the structure that you have online, there were a couple of times where I had agreed to do a comp swap with somebody, and they were like, "Oh yeah, my tickets are pay what you can. Go ahead and here," and I would get the link and pay what you can. If you set it to, even if you set it to 0 for a legit comp, for a comp swap, it will still charge the $250 Fringe fee.
Ticketing fee, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was only, I know exactly the times you're talking about. It was a weird, and it was fixed after it was found. There was it was a small amount, but it was depending on how you put in that 0.00 glitch. Yes, I know, and I'm so sorry. And I know this is my life, y'all. It's fun. Wait, how is that happening? And then you go down a deep dive of how many times did it happen? 9. Okay, why did those 9 happen? And what was the difference? Yeah, it's a fun life I live. But yes, thank you. That was absolutely a glitch that has already been looked at, and will be made easier for next year.
Yeah, okay, cool. I was going to bring that up, that I didn't know it was a glitch because I was like, oh, sometimes it was charging the $250 and other times, like putting 0, it was 0, so good to know.
Apologies, everyone.
Yeah.
And anyone who alerted us to that was fully refunded for that, because it's technology. What a bitch, you know what I mean? I'm going to go into, this is likely going to be a pretty small topic, but it's still we have to pay it respect and move into it. But COVID guidelines, obviously, lovely to see you. COVID guidelines are obviously not a thing, or weren't a thing this year. We allowed productions to do what they wanted if it made them more comfortable, but we do want to bring it up to make sure that what we did this year was palatable for artists. Like, our COVID policy was not to have one unless you wanted one, and then, of course, to make sure to alert us if a COVID transaction, contraction, if COVID happened on site.
If somebody got COVID, you were supposed to reach out to us,
Yes.
and there was a process there, but otherwise it was up to you.
Yeah, but only one case was reported, so that was the numbers there out of the entire. And granted, I mean, yes, could it have happened and no one told us? Yes, but nobody canceled performances, so I'm led to believe it did. So thank you, all the cheers to everyone in community who really took care of each other, because if it had gone differently and we couldn't trust you, we would have had to put some guidelines in for next year. But that said, anyone have feedback on not having guidelines in any strict sense? Melanie, yes.
Oh yeah, right. So for those who can't see me, I'm Melanie. My show was HFF23, which is Hebrew for a woman of effing valor. Thank you to the interpreter for doing the best you can with that. I don't know if this will be brought up again in a different topic because it's not about the performances per se, but the opening and closing parties in the Bourbon Room with hundreds of us stacked and sweating and breathing on each other was not the ideal venue necessarily, for many reasons.
We forgot to mention at the top of this. Yeah, we forgot to mention at the top of this, never again, ever, 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 for so many reasons. And it was a last minute bind. Our traditional venue that we've used for years was unavailable at the last minute, and and so we had to make a really quick switch that, again, wasn't going to cost a fortune. And
We did the best we could.
But never again. And I promise you never again, because I had anxiety. Like, it was massively, it was a lot.
So we know, so our apologies genuinely. We've learned, and we already have exciting plans for next year to make sure that that does not happen again. Granted, could the rug get pulled out from under us? Yes. But we're working towards something that will be really lovely for everyone.
We sent an email like the next day. We were like, okay, this will make me feel a lot better. The next is live stream. Did anybody hear live stream? Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I thought we were talking about the marketing. I do actually have a point about the online marketing on the Fringe site.
Oh, we'll get to marketing in a little bit, actually.
Oh, I thought we were at marketing.
We
Sorry.
for a minute. Ernest got us all off track. Any more COVID talks?
live stream. Any feedback about live streaming?
Do we keep it?
I would have done it if I had access to it easier. I asked about it at the Hudson, and I was kind of given like, you're on your own.
Um, live stream was awesome because there were several prime weekends that I had to be out of town for work. I'm like, oh my god, the days where I can see up to 7 shows, like I'm not even in town. So the live stream shows were awesome for people that are either in Los Angeles during the festival month, or just people around the U.S. or the world that know about the festival that want to tune in. And I also had a question, and maybe it's you guys can answer it after everyone else has talked about live streaming. But if there's a option of shows that are down with having their work available as a replay. But like I get if that can't be housed on like your Fringe platform, but maybe there's a way to like if they want to put it on their own personal YouTube page or another sort of stored digital platform, because then I know that would also be cool if there's only so much stuff we could see during the festival, that if the show isn't uptight or worrying about their work being available like online, if they want it to be visible, that'd be really awesome to have that option.
When maybe we go back to this idea of like the Google group, or like that like, okay, opt in to be a part of this like friend group that shares comps or shares live streams later. Yeah, it was an early conversation with live stream where like, do we want to, because like especially COVID, everyone was like, what do? We can't do live theater, and a lot of festivals went on demand, and we kind of watched that crash and burn. And for not even so much for the participant, but the audience gets so confused by it that way. And when it comes to it, the live stream is no longer exciting because I can on demand it at any time, and like the whole point of live theater is lost. So like I don't think we'll ever do it on our festival page, but I mean I highly recommend if you that's one of the reasons to get it like live streamed or filmed, is so that you can have that secondary like sell option. You have your friends Venmo you here, and I'll send you the unlisted YouTube link, whatever that is. And then, but certainly, or share it on the, you can message your fellow patrons on the Fringe website, because that's one of the beauties. Yeah, send them to me. I'd love to see them. Oh, we should keep moving time. Yes. Workshops and town halls. Were they helpful? Did you attend? Are there any like subjects within the town halls or educational series that we should have touched on that we didn't? Talk about all of the educational stuff.
I went to a great deal of those,
Yes,
and
you
I
did.
really did enjoy them, and I got a lot out of it. I do have a request that figuring out your budget and I know that knowing your venue is very important for your budget, but learning how to raise money, I think it should be closer to the top.
Maybe
Because
two different.
I
even?
was completely delusional, and maybe that was a good thing to be delusional, because I did it, but
What about would January be a good time, because we don't want to lose anybody we've tried it in the fall and it did not. November people forgot.
well, the first one I went to was the one that you had in January, and I hadn't decided if I was going to be able to raise $300, and so But I just have to do a sidebar real quick. I love the Hudson Avenue Theater, and I love the Hudson Guild Theater, and I feel like I've been poo-pawing them. So excuse me for my 15-second promo for the Hudson. They're amazing. They have a great box office. Somebody else can talk now.
Rebecca, you are hilarious. You're amazing. The town halls and workshops were amazing and brilliant. I put a little answered a questionnaire. Terrence Taylor with Love is a Battlefield to Play. Is there any way, even at the beginning, January, February, we also bring on people who have performed Fringe? I know you did at the end of it, but like
Oh, we
during
did it,
workshop-
but it was online only. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
one question is because we have 7 workshops
Yeah.
and then 3 town halls. All of the workshops are digital except for the last one. And they in the past they never were. But the reason we did that was because of COVID concerns and because of accessibility and quite frankly cost. Because it costs a lot more to do an in-person workshop than a digital one. But next year, one of the questions we just were going to ask is, do you find digital workshops easier, or do you want more in-person options? And then we will always have a live stream, and we'll always have a space for questions digitally, and we'll also have a way to be able to interact after the panel, because we think it's really important that we record everything for posterity, because I'll say that this year was probably our hardest year scheduling things because Lois and I were working on the weekends.
Oh, no, my question was just to have someone who did perform talk about their experience during a town hall instead of doing. You did it at the end, so I was wondering if you can do it like
more of a sales pitch of like,
Or
if you're
just like this
considering doing Fringe, this is what it's like.
Yeah, there's 2 people that had performed last time. Like, bring 2 people on every other town hall so they can get an exact idea of it.
But our panels are
Yeah.
are 4 people from past production.
Got you, but it didn't really sink in for me example until the last one where you had the people from Hedda Gabler and some other people that were up there, Tyler and some people
Yeah.
finally talking. It didn't really click.
They
until
were
the end.
participants? Oh.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, yeah, because all of our workshops, because like when Ellen and I were up here, those are town halls, right? That's just when Ellen and I speak the jibber jabber. That's like literally just the like, here are the rules of the game. You know, here's where to find the information, all the boring shit. That's what we get up here and do. But any of like this year, for example, all of the workshops, it was led by a staff member who just moderated the conversation, but any other participant or person on the panel has always been a past participant or current participant or somebody who can offer the lay of the land that we cannot. But that's good to know if that's not clear, because that's a different trust boundary, right? Like, I don't know, like I certainly have a different trust for people who have done it in the way that you all have. So, okay, that's really good to know. But I also, would it be helpful, because now you got me thinking, would it be helpful to have something more similar to Festival Expectations early on for people who are trying to make a decision on whether or not they want to do it? Okay. And we'll have Rebecca on to add in the delusional aspect. Yeah. And it's because full transparency also, Ellen and I are always, we'll never try to push anyone to do Fringe. We will give you the benefits and also the cons, right? Because it's not easy. Like, it is not cheap. So we'll always try to be very transparent in that. But I think so it is important to have an artist be like, here, yeah, it was hard, but here's why I did it. I freaking love that. Okay.
And on that note too, like when we have like our when what is it called? Fringe Central is just open. Perhaps you could have like artists or different artists, producers, whomever, just say, okay, this person's going to speak now, and you guys can do Q&A, questions and answers for anybody who's just basically like artist Q&A, producers Q&A, or just and it's also just another reason to bring people down to Fringe Central and just more bringing our community together, for all of our common goal.
Or even at the Wednesday mixers, like
We-
have someone speak at the mixer.
Yeah, good idea. I totally agree. Do we have any more on this? Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I might need your help with it, because we've talked about this and I don't remember specifically what it was, but I think it was the town hall specifically that were, first I'm going to say I'm very uncomfortable talking about this.
Okay.
So much so that I like broke down in tears thinking about what I was going to say about this today. Because I'll try to keep this just to, the town halls, but we have a very small group here, and even some of the people here know the days that I would not be able to go to a town hall, which are what? If you know them, shout them out. When can I not go to a town hall? Which is when? Which is when? Friday to Saturday. Okay. I just did that just to say that, like, I've been as involved as I can be from the beginning. You know, I'm very, you know, proud of who I am and, like, my place within this, and very much appreciate everything you do to make Fringe as accessible for everybody that it is. But as we talked about already, all of the town halls are on Saturdays. I could not attend a single one of them in person, and one of them, I think also the scholarship information session, if that was separate, was also on a Saturday. These are all things I had to watch after the fact, and it did have a ripple effect through the rest of the festival for me. There are other things that I'll bring up when it's more appropriate to the topic, but I don't feel confident or comfortable being like the voice of all Jews. Like that's not, you know, I happen to be a Shabbat observant Jew. I did not grow up that way. I grew up probably the way most of the, not to assume anything about anyone's experience, but most of the Jews you might see participate in the Fringe Festival. But I know for a fact I'm also not the only Shabbat observant Jew who is in the festival, even this year. So I want to point that out, that there were a lot of course, other events, you know, within Fringe. And as a Shabbat observant Jew, we've learned to deal with it, you know, in living in a world that does not cater to us. But I want to bring that up because it's something that you're not going to be aware of unless, you know, be aware of it. So, hi, starting that conversation.
Thank you so much for bringing it up, because we do want to talk about this transparently, you know, and to talk about the things that we messed up on. And by the time that we had realized that we had messed up on that, it was too late for us to fix anything. And we're really sorry that was, yeah, but for next year, like, it's something that we've definitely been discussing, and I'd love to talk to you more about a lot of your other experience, because I know this can be really hard. And that's never going to be our intention, and our intention is now just going to be to fix it.
And thank you. I know it's not easy to share in a public space. So thank you. And that's why y'all are making us better, you know? Thank you. Yeah. Should we go into participant resources? Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to name a bunch. That way we know kind of like the realm in which we're talking about, and then you can let us know your feedback on the different things that were hopefully resources to you. We had the supportal, or the support articles on HollywoodFringe.org, the blog or the news tab, which basically just had all of our relevant articles that had already been listed in newsletters and things like that. We had the mobile app. We had Fringe TV, the YouTube channel where you could watch all of the friendly town halls and workshops after they happened. Of course, the town halls and workshops we were just discussing. We had the participant packet. We had newsletters. So we had all of these different portals, and I'm sure I'm forgetting one or two. But were these helpful to you? Did you know about all of them? Did you use them? Were there some that you are just learning about right now, maybe? And then what tools do you recommend would be helpful to your experience in the future that we can create or make easier to find?
It was very helpful for me, and it, like, along the way, like, sometimes I forget, and like you guys send the email and then I just read through and then it gave me everything. But there are some people who's extremely busy and can't attend the town hall, and also they know that video is available for them, but to find a very specific topic is very difficult for them because they have to look through the whole videos. So maybe what if that we put a tooltip, like for people who wants to create the comp, they will have the tooltip to open up like little, blurb and give a screenshot at least. So then they don't really have to look for things. When they're actually creating the comp, they will see the information over there.
And literally, this is something that we just talked about, because we're like, okay, we feel like all of the information is out there, but it's still not being digested, because we recognize too, like we are throwing so much at you, and sometimes we can barely keep up. So how are people who are doing this for the first time keeping up? And so we were talking through just a few days ago, like, for every workshop, we are going to, like, okay, we have the workshop, and then it gets added to the playlist, which clearly is not easy to find because now we know. But with that playlist, we're going to send out a newsletter with like a one sheet of like, here are the important, don't miss, God help you if you did, like one sheet on every workshop. That way, and then maybe it's enough to entice you to watch the whole thing. But if not, at least you're getting the really important nuggets. So is that kind of something that would be more helpful of like your one page, read it, read it this week? Yeah.
And thank you, Spencer Johnson Online, for saying, and you can add video markers, because that's also a great idea, is that while we're doing it, we could add video markers and then reference that. We could be with our like staff and we could figure out what points were talked about what, and that way we could add video markers with this one sheet. Yay!
I loved all the stuff in person. That was 3 questions ago.
Yeah, I think we're moving back to that, so that way we have both options.
It sounds like you have more like thorough ways of like everything we were talking about, but just a like no tech option that comes to mind is having a little whiteboard that has the topic. You just like hold up as a clap. What would you call that, marking different topics?
I mean, it's kind of like a mark, like a mark for a film, right?
A thumbnail image, like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can just like hold up the whiteboard when it's the start of each topic.
I like.
Kill us if we tried to do something that low tech. How would we be so embarrassed to work with us?
But I also like the idea of a Vanna White, because I love to walk a runway. Oh my gosh. Okay, we gotta keep powering through, y'all. I'm so sorry. We're idea central over here. Press and reviews. Certified reviews. Experience working with registered press. Did you add your press release to your project page? Did you find that audience could easily navigate leaving a review? Review structure and the press comp requests. Like, those are the kind of topics.
I mean, maybe I should know how to do this, and I don't. Okay.
Really quick, I'm so sorry. I'm going to add one thing to it. That way it can be added into the conversation. I'm so sorry. We'll get right back to you, I promise. And with that, like a comment that already came through that I wanted to discuss as a group to see where we might land. So reviews, we had the certified reviews and the uncertified reviews, meaning that anything that was certified meant it came through the Fringe website, or the patron bought from the box office there in person and reached out, and we were able to, just like determine that they in fact saw the show. That was the difference, right? Certified, you sat down. Uncertified, you might have been mom from back home who never even, saw the show. So the question that we're starting to contemplate is it worth having the uncertified review option? Without it, that means you might lose reviews from people who were on the came in the box office and just don't go through the trouble of reaching out to get their reviews, put on the page, or just people who are less tech savvy who don't necessarily sign into their account. So let's add that to the conversation.
Especially with the app, where you'd be able to sell at the door and kind of capture their information a little bit easier.
Well, I like the idea, and keeping it as is, that you get to certify the reviewer or not. I think that's important because. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, just to clarify, we certify, like they can email support, or you can get in touch with us and say this person saw the show. So it wouldn't be the performer or the producer, but yeah, as it stands, we can absolutely certify anything within reason.
But don't we? I mean, I certified a couple people.
Yeah.
We were able to.
We were able to.
That's what I was gonna say. It doesn't.
I mean, I certified 2 people, and one person I did not certify because it sounded kind of crazy. So, yeah. Okay, you know what? My honesty is part of who I am. I'm sorry. But can I just say what I wanted to say about reviews? I was lucky enough, one of my goals was to get reviews, and I did get a lot of reviews. But there's a different reviewer of people who come as fringers, and then there's the reviewers. So I could not figure out, why couldn't my reviewers, the professional reviewers, why can't they have an area where those reviews are up? Or shouldn't those be in the beginning of the reviews? A paper came at the top. Shouldn't they be at the top? Because you don't give them the room. You only give them 2 sentences anyway. So I think that those reviews, and quite honestly, I don't know if my reviewers that came even know that we even have reviews on the site. Now, Ernest did, because Ernest is in the know, as we know. But I have like 5 other reviews that are not on the site from papers or blogs.
Yeah, and that does get a little confusing with the press stuff. So at the end of the day, we register press, anyone that we've worked with, or they reach out to us, or we reach out to people too. But that means if we're in communication and they've registered on the site, those are the ones who can request a comp, right, as press on the site. Unfortunately, and not to say there's not a way to maneuver this, but as it stands, we, like, most press do not, unless they are registered with the festival and have a good relationship with the festival. The average magazine is not necessarily going to post their printed review on the Fringe website. It's just not going to happen. As much as I wish they cared more about independent artists and would take that time. And
to talk to our publicists? Could there be some
kind
of
avenue? I mean, there's maybe, and even like getting, because a lot of it too, there's a lot of issues with press. It's copyright where they don't want their published article on another website. So that has been a complaint we've had in the past as well. So there's some.
I have a B. That was A. We'll give up A. Okay.
Oh, wait,
part
wait.
B. But part B. Okay.
Well, let me just throw this out here right now. The IMDb, if there's a review for that film or a review of an actor that's in there's a link that kind of like says that this is a review for, and then when you click on it, it takes you to the third party. So that might be a way to connect them.
And we suggest people to put those into their page. Into the details of your
Okay, well, I
page. So
did
if
do
you
that.
want to link it, then we suggest to put it into the page, because then it is a relationship that you have with that press person and not us. So
Okay.
us making a blanket policy could actually hurt for those people who have individual press contacts that we are not like down to Fringe, but they want to work with that person. So we have to be a little bit judicial. And before we do that, I thought you were talking about the certified versus uncertified with anonymous reviews. Like, how do you all feel about anonymous reviews? Was going to be another. That's what I thought your conversation was. But yeah, anonymous reviews is something I also want to hear feedback on. Did you get them? Were they helpful? Is it only helpful to get reviews with names behind them?
I hate to say that I think that I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about B. B. B is I've got, I was very blessed. I had some amazing reviews. And then, sometimes fringers are tired and they just will write like one sentence and, and God bless them. I understand, it gets hard to write a gazillion reviews. Is there a way of the producer getting to choose which reviews get to be near the top? No.
It would just get so messy. I think
Okay.
we have to keep it pretty organic with reviews, just so that it doesn't
Okay.
look like biased. You know what I mean? 'Cause
Okay. Well, there is another bias. Okay, I will go ahead and mention what I didn't want to talk about. I got one review, and I really felt like the person was just trying to, put rain on my parade. For whatever reason, it was another fringer who just wanted to put rain on my parade. So, but it wasn't a certified reviewer, and so I'd never certified it. But I do think that anonymous reviews can cause there to be some politics, and I wasn't aware of the politics, because, I'm blonde. No, but all seriously, I wasn't aware that somebody would want to, kind of scratch my eyes out. And I did have somebody do that to me, and it was anonymous. So I didn't certify the anonymous person, because what the hell? But I got a lot of great reviews.
Really quickly, I want to clarify, because some people are confused in the chat, and I think people might be confused in this room too. There's a couple of different types of reviews. So you have your certified reviews, which are people who have bought tickets, which means they cannot be anonymous. They have bought tickets, and we have their name populated. Then there's non-certified reviews, which could be people can say, I'm this person, or it's anonymous. You know what I mean? And then you can certify them, and then they're no longer, you know what I mean? So it's a question of, do you want people to have to put a name behind it? They can still cheat the system. Like, they can still make up a fake name, but then you don't have to certify it. And if it's, they'd have to make up an account, exactly. But that's why I'm saying, like, they could find their way through the system, but it would make it so that it has to be associated with an email, and it has to be associated with something that we can do follow through with.
I will note, just to devil's advocate here, but not, I'm kind of on board with because I hate like if you're gonna say something, put your face behind it. I'm fully on board for that. That's why Ellen and I get up here at all of these events to make sure we're the ones taking all of the feedback, because we're the we have to it's face behind the problem. But with anonymous reviews, that might mean you get less. Just so to consider what we're talking through here, that means you might get less. There's people who are just not as technically savvy. So even though they attended your show through the website, they have an account, they might not be logged in, but they'll still, so there's that aspect. And also judges, as I understand it, for the most part, like encore judges and the judge, there's arguably 80 people who are seeing shows to vote for encores or all the extensions. And I know most of them, or at least I've heard, they do not leave reviews under their name because it feels icky to be a judge and leave a yay or nay review. So I just wanted to name that, that might be something to consider. Not that it should weigh any heavier, because I think anonymous is kind of bullshit.
And I think that's where my opinion was coming in as well. I think the only quote unquote issue I think I had when seeing anonymous was just that pure curiosity of ooh, I wonder who thought that, whether it was good or bad. And I don't think that's any great reason to take that feature away, because I think there's a multiple amount of reasons that somebody would submit anonymously. And just to comment on bad reviews, we also got a review under an anonymous name that kind of tore our show up, but that's reviews. And that's what we had to say. Are we going to reach out to that person and ask them to delete it? No, because it's a fair system and they come to see the show and they can hate it. And that's why we do theater, is to be perceived and judged and be talked about. And I think to force somebody to say something awful with their name attached to it is also, I don't think, fair to that person. It sucks to get a bad review, but are we supposed to attack them just because we know their name? No, I don't think so, but that's just my 2 cents. So I think the anonymous feature didn't bother me.
I think this is how we end up where we end up every year. Is there's two sides to the coin.
So I'm just going to go back to the certified, uncertified, because I wrote a bunch of reviews, but I was uncertified because my husband bought the ticket. And I went with him, and I just happened to really enjoy the show, and I wrote a review. So my review was always hidden. So I just want to let everyone know that some people buy 4 tickets and 3 people go with it, and they really enjoy the show. They leave the review. So I just don't think that's something that you need to care much about, because there are certain people who just didn't buy a ticket and just happened to be there with other participants.
And it turns out that every show can certify the review anyway, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's not the end of the world. At the end of the day, we would end up going to you to find out if they've seen the show anyway. So
it kind of makes sense.
It's totally fine. And
Personally, I think it makes sense.
And we just hit change and we didn't realize it.
Can you just quickly clarify how reviews are listed by default? Because I thought it was by date, but then I would have some reviews that were not in the right order, and I was like, why is this at the top for so long?
I do not know off the top of my head. I know that we've had this conversation before with our developer. What is it, Sue? Sue knows.
So under the review, that there's was this review helpful? And then people click yes, and it'll go up.
Thank you, Sue. It's also so interesting because Ben would know all these things because he developed all the tech on it, whereas we're like, I don't know, I have to ask him, and then I have to remember it.
And I also forgot to eat, which means my brain is gone.
We are not at 100%, folks, but we are here with you. We do need to move on if we can, but if there's any pressing more reviews press, great. I think...
I do have to chime in. I think the website is incredible, and I'm going to miss it.
Thank you, Ben
So,
Hill. Thank
yeah.
you, Dave McKeever.
And I am at the Hudson Guild
Thank you, Lois.
Theater. Getting there this Sunday at 6 p.m.
Let's chat Fringe Central, which was at 905 Cole. Did you go? Did you know about it? Yeah, Fringe Central. Any feedback on Fringe Central?
We've already heard some great stuff from Barry.
Yeah.
I missed Fringe Central this weekend. I was like, I can go over there. Oh, no, I can't.
Well, I'm sure Robin misses all of us, so.
I was gonna say, I felt like it should have been open more. You know, I felt like it should have been open more, and then also, I would have loved if if there was more like the town halls, just more of the town halls were there, or so that we could actually keep people coming to Fringe Central, and also let everybody know that that this is available. You should be here. You should be here with all of your friends and your Fringe family. And so I think that if we, that's the only thing is I just thought that we should have just been there more. I always when our show ended, we went to the Broadwater.
To clarify, because and I'm going to interrupt a little bit more just so that we can get to the grains of things. We used to have it open every day. If we had it open every day, we might not be able to have a liquor license for that long. Would that be a game changer, or would it be okay to have coffee shop vibes, like just a place to hang out that had like non-alcoholic drinks on some days and then more of a bar space other days? Or is how important is alcohol to your Fringe Central experience?
I'll also note that we had those things and people didn't come. So we kind of make decisions based on turnout, right? Because if nobody wants it, then we're not gonna push it on people. Because we had multiple networking events and even like events with partner orgs that nobody came for, and we get and this is like the medium, right? Artists are busy, you have your own thing, so.
But would weekday events be an easier get, because we weren't able to do things because to be quite frank, it was because of cost as well. We didn't run for multiple days because we are still recovering post-COVID.
I think, in my opinion, having like a list that you did for every Wednesday mixer, you had a whole list like a month ahead of time. If you would do that at Fringe Central.
We did it about 2 or 3 weeks before.
It was, well, there a little bit, yeah.
That time of year.
But it was like, posted the day before, like, oh, there's a mixer for LGBTQ, or there's something like that. It was.
And we did do the bigger one, but I think that it just got missed because it was in the middle of May.
Right.
And I think what's so hard is so much of, I think, yes, ideally, but I do want to also say, like, we do not have a full-time staff, and we do not have, think if we're paid minimum wage for our, and we just started getting paid that this year, think about what the rest of our team has. And so capacity wise, I would love to say yes, and I will say that I'm not going to promise anything. I think that's a bigger picture idea.
I don't think that it has to be all or nothing. I don't think it has to be it's open every weekday and also weekends, or it's not. Even if it was like you said, office hours are so effective because we knew when it was. But even if it was like rotating, it's Tuesday this week, Wednesday next week, whatever it is. But this is a great opportunity to talk about something else I'd made a note I wanted to talk about, which I've called Sunday Squeeze. And again, this is very specific for the Jews among us. But as I mentioned before, I can't attend anything on Fridays and Saturdays. So Fringe Central this year was open from 5 p.m. Friday to midnight Friday, and then Saturday it was open until maybe 11 or so, and then Sunday it was open all day. Sunday Squeeze means that I was able to attend and I know I recognize this is specific for my situation, but also, as I said, I'm not the only. But anyway, what it means to observe Shabbat Friday sundown to an hour later, 25 hours, right? Is that everything else has to fit into that Sunday. All of my shows were on every Sunday of Fringe, right? So I couldn't make it to Fringe Central really most of the Sundays either. I made it once for one mixer an hour before one of my shows. And look, I recognize everybody has, commitments on different days of the week they have to get to, but that definitely would have made it accessible for me, period, on top of everything else, I have to do while Fringe is going on. That's pretty much what I wanted to say about that.
Since we're all used to the Wednesdays, I think we should have Fringe Central the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and every Wednesday. Because we're used to the Wednesdays. It's already, we kind of, when the Wednesdays were over with, I was a little bummed.
And, for funsies, like just the history of Fringe, because all of you are newer to the Fringe community. We used to have Wednesday parties every Wednesday during the festival until a certain point when people stopped going because they were too busy seeing shows, which was a great thing. So, yeah, it's kind of finding this balance of, like, how much to mix socializing, and because we don't ever want to encourage you to go drink instead of seeing shows, because then that's defeating the purpose.
And we
like a Wednesday thing that we announced early.
And I will
I
also
got no problem with no alcohol, just FYI.
I will also say that, like, if it was a little
That's
more
them.
casual, less programmed, we If it was a little more casual, less programs, we could be open a lot easier. And would that be because I think like it's kind of like we have to decide programming or we have to decide open. And I think maybe just open space is what people are seeking while shows are going on. And is that true? Cool.
Yeah.
Because
Awesome. Yeah,
it's really down to these little decisions at a tiny nonprofit. So if we can do them with info, then we can do it. And we can also do it like there's sometimes alcohol and sometimes not. Like, would that be like I don't. Yeah, but on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I think there is a need for a secondary bar space because it gets so packed. So I think on the weekdays we should be pushing people to go drink alcohol at a bar.
And would and is it a problem for us not ending at midnight because if our show went on at 10 o'clock, by the time we got everybody out, we couldn't even turn around and go down there. So I mean, like
we've talked about it too. The reason is liquor license that we were forced to do that for this year, but that doesn't mean that it would change. It was because it's an outdoor area and there's like noise and we can't.
We couldn't actually. The renters wouldn't allow us to be outside past midnight. So it was
So we have to decide based on like what spaces we can get also, and again, we don't want to pass that cost on to our producers. So like every single dollar that we're talking about right now has to be accounted for in registration because the city and county do not fund the arts in an adequate way. You know what I mean? Like it's not like there's tons and buku dollars. You can see every dollar that we spend. So when we're talking about like that money, we're talking about, and we love the county, we love the city. It is not their fault that the budget shakes out the way that it does. They do what they can with what they've got in the arts departments. We love our contacts there. We love the funding that they do give us because we're privileged enough to get that. But also I think we have to think a little bit about like every suggestion that we get takes a dollar from somewhere else. So that's why we're like, how can we maneuver this with what we have to be the most accessible and the most accommodating to the most people?
Should we do a quick? We're gonna try to speed through these last two because Ellen and I have got to work on our timing. We just talk and talk and talk. So our apologies. But marketing, we've kind of already touched on it. Do we have any last thoughts on marketing? Anything in the realm of marketing? Yes. We've lost the mic. Thank you all are doing
Just
this so well.
very quick thing. I saw some of the last year's advertising was displayed, and it's kind of eat up the impression of the current advertising. So if there's a way that you can turn off the previous year's marketing, then we can the current show can get more impression on the website.
On the website.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because there are a bunch of last year's shows still refreshing on the site, and I asked one of the guy who happens to be on that show, and then he said he doesn't really care that his site getting the hit. So I think that we should find a way to turn off some of the impression from the last year's show, because I don't want my advertising to be on next year's show.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's a good note for anyone listening. If you have impressions that still haven't gone all the way through that you've paid for, turn them off. That way you can use them for future festivals or future. It doesn't have to be the Fringe Festival. You can advertise the show that you're doing, at the Hudson next week. But so definitely, and that's something to look into. That's a really good note. Thank you.
This is a note I took down when we were talking a little bit about the gentleman that was here referencing maybe some needs for some actor resources and things like that. And I was wondering if that's something that could possibly be implemented into workshops, because I know as producers we're allowed to do a workshop. If maybe there's some kind of sign-up scholarship thing that's saying, okay, through Hollywood Fringe we have placeholders for a directing workshop or an acting workshop or a musical theater workshop, whatever, and as producers or participants we can apply to host those. So for feedback, say projection was an issue for some of the actors and we couldn't hear them, maybe that's a need that somebody can say, oh, it's my first time on stage, I just auditioned for this Fringe show, I'm not really sure how to be on stage, I'd love a workshop through Fringe. Maybe that's something as participants we can sign up and apply and go, I'd love to host a directing workshop, but it's more set up by Fringe and we would fill that space rather than giving us the ability to host a workshop of our choice, which I think was great, and we were able to, and we had a great turnout. It was wonderful. But if there was 5 that are offered through Fringe that say, okay, this year, sign up and apply to host these workshops that are a need for participants or for audience members. I'm figuring it out loud, so I know it sounds crazy.
No, I see what you mean, and I wonder, because just thinking of the liability and even the function of this,
Right.
it's a little more messy because it would be like commissioned work, like it dives into like employee versus independent artist that is not contracted by Fringe
Right.
to do a job. However, that said, like I definitely see where you're coming from, and you're right. There's a gap here, and I'm wondering if we bring back more and outreach it better. What we used to do from like a couple years ago, Ellen and I decided like, okay, we would do workshops in June, but I feel like there's this few months where it's kind of like more helpful maybe for artists who do need help with live stream, right? Or they're doing something actively and they need help with. So there's a potential to bring that back where you can do a workshop if you're a Fringe participant anytime after February.
And that's what we opted to do. We decided to host a workshop on our own prior to the festival starting to try and promote the show, as we did acrobatics and things. And we'd use that to promote our show rather, because we also knew like that would be a lot to take on during the festival. And so I think, yeah, like having the ability to do your workshop prior to the festival, that way any first-time people throughout the festival have that information prior from maybe a couple pros that want to do that workshop weeks in advance.
Yeah. And that's something we could market, and that's something we do absolutely.
I think in that high tier, you know what I mean?
Yes.
If we're talking tiers, I'm thinking like we need a noodle on that.
I just want to say, I think the way you divvied out the information was really great.
Thank you. There's 4 things we need to cover, and so I want to name all 4 of them in case there's something that you're like, I have to talk to that subject, because we have 4 subjects: accessibility, programming, like our access committee is a program, our scholarship is a program, our artist fund is a program, another program would be our Discover Fringe Industry program, and awards. And then if you have a big picture future, or something more specific, we're going to be here for 30 minutes to be able to talk while we're cleaning up, we're putting back chairs. We also are available. We're very easy to get a hold of. We'll
do office hours, off-season office hours starting in February, because we just can't get enough of y'all.
We also have our survey where you can give individualized feedback anonymously or with your name, and then our emails. I'm sure you all have them, and if you don't, then you can guess what they are. It is our name at hollywoodfringe.org, and if you don't know our names, then you don't get to email us.
I do have a friendly suggestion. Send out that survey again, because I spent a whole 2 hours looking for the survey because I didn't do it right then, and then I could never find it again.
We will. Yeah, it's in today's, and we'll make sure we're going to keep it through the end of the year. It'll be
It's in today's, okay. What's wrong? Okay.
So we really will make sure that we try and keep that kind of stuff in here, because truly we're going to Edinburgh next month, and then we come back and we set next year's budget, and then we're ready. So this is the time. If you have big ideas, email us, let us know. Cool.
I'm going to get more water while you start accessibility.
Yes. Or any of these topics, accessibility, awards, anything.
It's real quick about the awards. Even me personally, I didn't have enough time to vote.
Okay.
It was. It seems as if by the time because I was directing, writing, producing every damn thing, and by the time I sat down and looked at my emails, it was literally that morning, and it was already 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I'm gonna say, oh wow, yay, I was nominated for something. I can't vote. It's too late. And so I was wondering if and it just also seems as if it was it just seems so quick and so rushed. That the awards were just I feel like they came out on a Friday, and then Friday evening, and then Sunday morning it was over with. And so it just didn't give anybody, especially all of us, and we're fringers, and we're doing the absolute most, and so we didn't have time to vote, and I just feel like some people had a lot of people and had a lot of time to vote and get everybody's emails out, and it's just like, you know, it seems as if like, you know, are you really good, or are you really good at PR?
Did anybody here have more than one show after the last Wednesday of Fringe? One more performance. So did anybody have more than one performance the Wednesday after?
It was very.
That would be the. I can look. 21st, yeah, it was the 21st. More than one show after that. Yeah, because I think that's what's so hard is we opened it on the 23rd because we need as many people to see as many shows as possible. It's open for about 48 hours, a little bit less this year. It's 46 because of a technical issue, yeah.
Yeah, so for next year, could we extend that a little more? Because I noticed that when it was open, you can edit it. Yeah, you could edit up to it. So
people tend not to, yeah.
right, but then yeah, but then I guess like what for people in like Barry's situation of once it's open, then they make their voting so that it doesn't sneak up of remembering like at the very end.
How many people would like prefer it to open on like Thursday?
Yeah.
So it opened Friday at 4 p.m.
And end by Sunday at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
That's not enough time.
To vote, like, can people be allowed to, you know, I mean, say for instance if they came to see some shows, or just even earlier on, like, you know, I mean, if people saw, like, you know, I mean, if the festival say it's 4 weeks long, if they've seen a lot of shows up to 2 weeks, I mean, and we could, if there's a way of seeing that, I mean, that people, I think that voting should be open, but you can't vote for a show that you haven't seen.
So the reason that this
Something
is
like
because
that.
we capture ballots of like the way that we capture ballots is you have to have seen a certain number of shows. Right. And so I don't think we could do it much earlier than like Thursday afternoon, because then we're at least going in where there's only like usually 1 to 2 performances left of each show. But it would make me anxious to do it any earlier than that, because then you're losing a lot of ballots.
Crazy. I mean, this is nuts. Yep. I shouldn't say this on a microphone. Is having awards the Sunday at the very end of the festival absolutely imperative to our happiness?
No, you should have it on that Monday after
Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or like even a Wednesday?
A Wednesday, yeah.
People are out of town. But Monday, so that would okay. Interesting.
So Monday, like if we had it on Monday, you would still attend.
Yeah,
It would be cheaper for us too.
And then we have time to rest and get ready.
Dark Night, yeah.
Spencer, do you mean you would not at all attend on a Sunday, or do you mean it's not a problem?
The person who deals with the balloting over here.
I'm just waiting to talk. So voting to vote is what you're really saying, is that you as an individual, because if you as a fringer are having problems getting in there to vote because it's like the last minute, so you're thinking like on a Sunday night you would still have time, and then it would be all collected by Monday morning kind of thing would be easier for you. Right.
Yeah, that is definitely, this would be a big change. So you might be in the room where it happened.
But
this might be
for
something
those
that
who
changes.
have audiences coming to shows that are on that Thursday and Friday, to say, hey, don't forget to vote, or that instead of just saying leaving a review, to remind people that if you're in that category of having shows the last 4 days of the Fringe, to also push them to keep an eye out to vote.
They also need to see a certain number of shows, which would help get people into other houses. Not a bad idea, because the last weekend is always that like bum rush. Cool.
Also,
We stick to, like,
That's
let's
what
just,
I wanted to,
and I was gonna say, please, like we know about like awards will be at a bigger, better place on a Monday perhaps next year. So ceremony, we know, absolute shit show. No, is there anything else awards specific while we've started that topic?
Well, just in the sense of this whole idea of doing an award on a Monday, I put a note to myself, if I ever do Fringe again, make sure you don't do a show on the last day of Fringe. It's a way.
Yeah.
One thing for me, I heard this from a lot of people coming in, so I'm also speaking anonymously for a handful of people, that for shows that are given extensions or encores or producers awards or whatever, that they're pretty much put on the board and say, these are the people coming in, but to have a 20-minute thing,
Yeah,
it's killing the night.
We've got that note, and we've done it in so many different ways, and we've done it for the last 10 years. We've done it where it's just a slide. People were like, it's not an award then. I need to be my name to be mentioned. We've done it where we said this year 2-minute speeches, 2-sentence speeches. Did 2-sentence speeches happen? No. Every producer, you saw us. We were like, okay, we're going on with our award. Everybody else did not follow their rules, and so it's yeah. We're gonna try our best to fix that. We already have. It might go back to a slide, to be honest.
Every time somebody takes too long, we just go out there and like.
We're thinking about like maybe like walk-off music for next year. Like if there's like if it's going on too long, like. Well, because the Moon Units would make such cute walk-off music.
It wasn't the people who got an award that went on and on. It was the people who are giving the awards.
I will say that in the chat, partying after awards is nice.
I
So
got
Sunday
2 words.
can be better for that reason, because it is true that nothing would be open after awards. Yeah, which is a valid point.
Oh yeah. We would be happening.
Yeah, we're happening.
Saturday and then have awards Sunday, just so it's not the same day as shows. It's just note to self.
Or we can just say no shows
And
on
this,
Sunday.
this might may not be something we solve today, but no, like I think this is, yeah. This might be one of those, you'll see a social media survey coming out where it's like, what do you think? And we'll get some feedback.
And we also might keep it the same, but we're going to try to figure out how to make it equitable no matter what we end up doing. And that's part of, I do want to say that our Access Committee is going to be doing another awards equity report and how we can better, because every time we do that, we've gotten more and more equitable awards. So we're going to keep doing that.
Should we go into programs real quick, if that's okay? And then we can, is it awards?
It's scholarships and accessibility, so I can
Well, that's
wait.
where we're going. All right, perfect. So we'll start. Yeah, I'm gonna just name some programs to like refamiliarize yourself with the different programs, and that way you have. Great.
You're going, Melanie. Melanie is following the rules. She got water while we were doing the rules.
Okay, yeah. So, like I said, this is a combination of scholarship and accessibility, I guess. And this is kind of the hard part because it's conversations that I don't feel comfortable starting, let alone having. But when I first became aware of the scholarship, this is, I don't know, October, whenever it was you had that initial session. And I watched it after the fact because it was a Saturday. And I couldn't watch it Saturday. But anyway, thank you. At one point, so the scholarship on the website, basically it wasn't entirely clear from the description that was available who the scholarship is for. And to be perfectly clear, whoever it is for, like I'm not saying it should or should not be for whom, but it wasn't clear. Because I remember looking at, and it said like, we specifically encourage submissions from voices that have been traditionally marginalized, women, the deaf community, LGBTQIA plus, Two-Spirit plus, BIPOC, and it was this list of traditionally marginalized identities. But at one point during that session about the scholarship info session, somebody addressed something, I guess, that was posted in the chat, and they said, and unfortunately I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exactly what it was, but somebody said, I just want to address something I see in the chat. We love Jewish stories, but this isn't for you. And not in those exact words, but it made me think, why? And this is a big conversation, again, one I'm not comfortable having with questions that I'm not prepared to answer, like, are Jews white? Are Jews white passing? If we're talking BIPOC, which includes indigenous, that's a conversation about, it's like, to go really, it's a very complicated issue. And again, I'm not saying that, I feel like I should be, if that's not who it is for, fine. But to learn that way, it dug. It really deeply stung. Because I told the story that I haven't been able to tell because I grew up doing theater. And when I started learning more about my own, religion, my birthright, I started observing Shabbat, and theater was out for me. If you can't work on, say it with me, Friday and Saturdays, then theater, despite the laws against discrimination based on it, the reality is it's, the industry's just not there yet. But Fringe, I saw as a place where I can make that you know, the reality. And this is my first Fringe. It was one of the most artistically fulfilling experiences of my life. I got to do theater for the first time. That wasn't with like a Jewish group, you know. I got to do so much I've never been able to do before, but at the very least, you know, I've been in Jewish and non-Jewish spaces, and I'm very used to this, like, what made it particularly uncomfortable was that the person who said this identified as half black and half Jewish in their words. And it felt like that person was like, they are the, you know, the sole and final authority on this because they said it and that was it. The topic was like deviated from immediately. So the point being, it's an ethno-religious tribe with specific rules and laws, and the reason we don't know about a lot of them has direct ties to the Holocaust and the assimilation we had to go through here. Again, this is very heavy for like a Fringe town hall, and you know, I don't need or want to get fully into it, but it's directly relevant to Fringe because of the timeline with which you operate, and with Fringe typically being in June. Is that going, I know it's been in August in the past, you're going to run into not only Shabbat, as I've brought up, but Pesach, Passover, which only affected a couple of like office hours here. Shabbat, I couldn't go to any of the runways though. I couldn't go to, you know, Fringe Central as I mentioned, but Shavuos is another one. Shavuos is a 2-day holiday, full 48 hours. Not just a holiday, but a chag, a day where Jews who observe those things cannot work. Completely dark. So, and this year there were a couple of deadlines for, I don't remember what it was. I think it was the opening party, or one of the, I think it was a VIP opening part, one of those opportunities where the deadline was over Shavuos. I'm not asking for, or I would like at least the respect and acknowledgement of this reality of people who see an opportunity to participate in Fringe for what it's supposed to be, like this beautiful, accessible space that really does a lot to protect the people in it. You know, like using people's appropriate pronouns and accessibility for people with different ability, and that is amazing. But at very least, the respect and acknowledgement of what the reality is for people who observe Shabbat in the Fringe scene. So you will see and hear more of us, if not accommodation to make that easier. If nothing else, deadline's not on a holiday where I can't be online to see it's a deadline would be nice, you know, just on top of everything else. So thank you for letting me get all that out.
Do we have any other feedback that we want to go through? Accessibility, equity and inclusion, awards, and programs. So that's also industry. It's many things. Yeah.
We had a little difficulty for our encore trying to get it back up on the site. Even talking with Matt Quinn and everybody like that, and it is the issue with like the theater that we were working with, because it was her first time being part of Fringe. But I did do the tech part and reached out to them and everything else, but it was a little difficult for revamping our. No. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, can I speak to that a little bit? Yeah, and thank you. And we, a little bit of what I was tech, and a little bit of it was like extensions happen in this fun window where we're still trying to close out the festival. And I don't know if I basically still run all of the extensions on the website, so it's me trying to close out all of like the actual shows and then going and I add 146 or however many there was, like getting all of those performances up. So yes, and my apologies, there were a few hurdles this year, in addition to like there were some tech changes that kind of went a little wonky. So yes, there were those problems have been solved, but to honor your problem that was had, it was real, and it will be better in the future. Yeah. Anything we could throw in big picture here, unless you've already discussed that while I was getting water too. Any big picture ideas that could make our festival amazing? Yes.
What we were talking about towards the beginning of the conversation of like having ways for fringers to reach out to other fringers and stuff. Like, would it be possible to have resources of groups and mailing list blogs that are available to the public, and then ones that are available to just fringers? So how there's the Hollywood Fringe Facebook page. Like, I know most of the people on that group are like fringers and within the community for that year of the festival. But if there can be some groups purely for like fringers in general, or fringers that are active for the year, and then we can talk about things if you were saying like, oh, who wants to teach this workshop. We're looking to last minute cast an actor, a tech and position, whatever. Just different type announcements, or asking advice and like questions and stuff within the community. So.
Are you like specifically, because we definitely have the Facebook group for that reason, and we keep it as like anyone who's ever really participated, because the Facebook group really is participants of either present or past, because they can offer advice, hopefully. So we do have that.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was public or if that was, if its core purpose was what you were just saying.
Oh,
so
its core purpose is that.
Thanks for clarifying
that. Yeah. But I went like we've had Discord in the past that. But nobody ever used it. Boy, did we all get you to try. Nobody, and I get it because it's kind of a bitch, but I think it's over now, Haverty. I don't.
We've tried that. We've tried Facebook groups. We've tried so much.
Going based off of like past conversations that we had earlier about like this whole opt-in, opt-out thing, and based off of what you said, maybe there's something, once people have bought tickets for our show, there's that email patrons button. If there's a button on the site that says email fringers, and it's anybody who has a registered Fringe account that can opt in for that. I know that's a big kind of thing that you could probably chip away at,
security risk, but yeah. I see what you're saying.
Or when we or anyone with a registered show, maybe not a Hollywood Fringe account, but a registered show, and then it can say, email fringers, and anyone who's opted in for that would get that email notification and say, hey, my show is looking for whatever, or whatever that announcement is. You'd get that email, and it's participants rather than just the ability to email your patrons, and it's somehow, I don't know.
He got the gold star again. He wanted it back, and he got it.
So anything, these have all been amazing ideas, but I have a whole meeting with Stagey, the team that does the website this weekend, and that's something I want to bring up early because it might take a while. That and the comp.
You know what? I would really like. Oh, I'm sorry.
On that, I used to be a part of a Yahoo group where you could do an alert to the group, just like an email. So, like, if you're opted into that group, you're like, "Hey, I've got an alert. I'm looking for help with self-tape. Anybody available?" And that would go out to the whole group, and then.
We will always allow participants to make these resources because you know what? The best resources that have come out of Fringe have been participant made. So if there's something like this that you also want to take charge of and you want to do, like, I want to say that like we've tried a lot of these things and they take the oversight that our staff just can't handle because we want to make sure that we are doing we have to have our code of conduct in these spaces. We have to moderate them, and that takes so long. So I don't think that we'll do another thing like that. But if you're like, I have a vision for a group, there's like Fringers Alliance, I know, is one of those that they started because they were like, I want to make a group for Fringers where they can talk. And we fully support that. They're in our participant packet. Anything like that we will promote. We just won't necessarily make because we just can't. Yeah, Fringers Alliance. I know that there's like another LA Theater and Fringe Facebook group and a couple other Facebook groups like that. And so if you ever wanted to make like a listserv or a group, Google I/O group or something like that, we'll totally put it in our participant packet.
I just want to get this in. When it's all over, when it's all over, I would love there to be, today was lovely, but I want Fringe after Fringe, like all these people who have one-person shows, what are we going to do with them? I mean, we need a support group. We need a support group of how we're going to, what are you going to do after Fringe? The bubble has burst in my life.
No. Well, and welcome to off-season office hours beginning in September. We do once a month office hours until we get to next season because we feel the same. Like, we miss you. We love y'all. We are so attached to this community, and I know that a lot of you feel the same. So we have these events so that we can stay in touch, and you can still get together in community at least once a month. And it's also a chance for new participants who are new, because you've all been there, right? You were new participants. For new participants to come and meet you wonderful people and go like, do I want to do this? And they get to meet you, and they get to see what you've experienced. And so, yeah, starting in September, please come and join us. It'll likely be at the Plunge. The early ones usually are. So don't worry, you're not going to get rid of us.
all that.
And
I
those
like
are
all that.
Wednesday nights.
I'd like
Wednesday
all that.
nights.
Wednesday nights. I look forward to it. But I need to figure out what I'm doing next. Anybody else?
Oh, like creative.
Oh, well, so we
Like
are
what-
actually
you know-
working, and like one thing that is like a long-term goal with the industry program is helping you guys figure that out.
Okay.
Is having that connection building, but because this was just our first year that we've done that, it's not 100% there yet. But look out in the future because that's big plans.
Ellen and I don't know when to stop working, so we have new ideas all the time.
And neither does Carly and Stina.
Last question, comment of the night.
Yes, also relating to accessibility. So I really appreciated the session you did on accessibility. I think you combined it with accessibility and marketing, or it was like, or was it its own? It was just accessibility, yeah. And you had resources specifically for interpretation. And I reached out, heard nothing back, was encouraged to reach out again and follow up, and it fell through. They said my show wasn't like right for the opportunity. Fine. It was a student interpreter program, so that makes sense. They can't do everything. I was given another lead to follow, reached out to them, didn't get a response. And by that point, it was so like late in the I couldn't, I didn't, there were a couple other resources. Like point being, I really would have loved to have had at least one of my performances interpreted. And I would like to see more resources for that, specifically affordable.
You'll love to hear that we have just written a grant, and we're trying to. And the truth is will it come through? Probably not. It's going to take us 3 or 4 times, but that is one of the programs that we're trying to start. It's just funds to have an interpreter at your show.
Like the artist fund, it would get people would apply, and we'd try to get to funds as many people as possible.
No.
Just like the artist fund, it would go out like that. Does anybody else? All right, we're going to end. Please know that you can always reach out to us. Please go and do our survey. Please talk to us afterwards if you have anything pressing, and we love you all.
You guys were wonderful, and we can never thank you enough for this Fringe. Ellen, Lois, thank you so much.